Welcome back to the Monocle, where we keep an eye on Dynasty football. Tonight's episode, I'll be covering your hot takes for the upcoming season, but I didn't want to do this episode by myself, so I had to bring in the king of the take, at Duchesne's _. How are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing well, man. I'm in my element. I'm glad you brought me here. This is like home for me. The hot takes. I don't know who else you could have really asked to bring here that would have delivered better. So I'm ready. Let's get headphones off. Let's do this.
Hell yeah. Honestly, it's been a while since I've live streamed, and so I didn't actually give you guys any notice whatsoever. Like a gentleman, we just hopped on here and we're just gonna go over some hot takes and see how hot they are. But like I said, I had to bring on at Duchesne's so we can properly fade Duchesne's, which is what you should always do. But let's go ahead and start off with the first one because we have quite a few. And the first one comes in from our dear friend at Lindellians on Twitter. And she says, Justin Herbert is the QB1. Duchesne's, I'll let you start off with this one. How hot is that?
It's a little hot. It's not headphones off. It's not that going that far. It's hard to distinguish some of these takes from redraft from Dynasty. I'm going to assume this is Dynasty. And I have Herbert as my QB2, but he's a complete tier below the QB1, Pat Mahomes, who's in his own tier. I've got Herbert with three others in that second tier, but the headphones are on. They're not coming off for this take. This isn't so hot.
And real quick before I get started, we did have a couple of comments here. Of course, we had a hashtag Fade Duchesne's from Z2. Thank you, Z2. We had a hashtag Fade Duchesne's from Dave. and then we have a Duchesne's regular takes are hot takes, which is also very true. So
the fanboys know.
They know. They do know. Yeah, so, I mean, once again, we don't know, or we didn't know, like, based on this, if it was for Dynasty, for redraft purposes or whatever. But I was kind of going with, like, more of a redraft feel. Maybe, especially being from Linda, like, I feel like she's more about that redraft life. But, either way, obviously, if you do really well in redraft, you're going to move up in Dynasty ranks and that kind of thing. But if you look at it, Herb's had the fourth most attempts in the league last year, despite missing a week. So, I mean, just imagine what he would have had if he had played 16 full games. And I just think, with the injuries that they had to their defense and Austin Eckler missing time and everything, that actually led to him having to throw the ball more. And then, obviously he ended up very well because of that. Now, obviously he was a rookie. He can move up. He can progress. He can get better. But I just think that the QB1 is a little too spicy for me, but it's not that out of control. Like I have him as a top 10 QB for sure. So I mean, it's not like it's insane. You're not saying Daniel Jones is the QB1 or anything.
Is he even a QB?
I'm not even sure.
I have Herbert as the QB2 in Dynasty, but in redraft, I'm a little lower on him just because I'm pumping the brakes a little bit on Herbert for this year, and I just like other quarterbacks a little bit better. I got him as QB7 in redraft this year. If he's QB1 though, Linda, in this happy hour co-owner league, I saw you took Josh Allen at 102. Care to explain yourself here?
Yeah, right. It sounds like you got some splaining and doing some fanboying instead of winning. But yeah, honestly, with Herbert, it just seems like he rushes a little bit, but to be the QB1, you either have to be like that Patrick Mahomes level, throwing 50 touchdowns, that kind of thing, or you really have to be running the ball. And I think he averaged 15 yards per game. That's just not really going to cut it. So I think it's in redraft, it's going to be really tough. And then in Dynasty, unless he has that kind of year, then I don't think he's going to be moving up to QB1. So it's a little hot. But Duchesne's does have the receipts, always.
My bookmarks are filled, motherfuckers. You're going to owe me apologies for Rondale Moore and Devontae Parker, but I'm sure we'll get to that one.
Oh, trust me, we have some Devontae Parker a little bit later. So the next one that Linda brought us was Javonte Williams is greater than Melvin Gordon by a metric ton. That one seems pretty spicy to me. I know people love... Yeah, I guess you disagree with me, but people love them some Javonte Williams. But I can't get behind the fact that people are thinking that all of a sudden Melvin Gordon's just gone. Like they're talking about him being traded. They're talking about, even if he's not, it's just going to be the Javonte Williams show. It wasn't the Javonte Williams show in college. Michael Carter, who was a 4th round pick for the Jets, did just about as much as Javonte Williams did. Now, obviously, I have Javonte Williams over Michael Carter. I think he's a better running back. But I think the point is that even North Carolina didn't trust him to be like a workhorse running back. And now you have a highly paid Melvin Gordon on the Broncos. Yes, they traded up for Javonte. I do think he's going to be used. He's going to be used heavily, but I don't think he's going to be that workhorse level. And when you're talking about being that much better than Melvin Gordon, I don't see it happening. I could see like a 60-40 split or something like that. I don't see it. No?
Nope. Headphones are on, Linda. This is not hot at all. Metric ton. Melvin Gordon is like, he's in a ditch or he's already out of Denver. I have no worries, no qualms about Javonte Williams with Melvin Gordon. You're talking about Melvin Gordon splitting the load with Carter in college. That's what happens when you have 2 NFL caliber running backs. You're not gonna just use the one workhorse. You're gonna use both because they both are NFL caliber. Javonte Williams, it's the Javonte Williams show. I would be surprised if he doesn't see 65-70% of the touches.
I mean, that's like a starting level running back at that point, 65, 75, 70%. You're basically talking about any running back that's not in some kind of committee. So you're kind of expecting Melvin Gordon to just kind of fade away to nothing. And I don't see, and I'm not saying he has like this insane contract, but they're still paying him like $8 million a year. If he's on that team, unless they do trade him for whatever reason, then I just don't see how they're just going to be like, fuck him.
Well, he sucks, and Javonte Williams is way better. So I might be like 60-40 to start, but it's going to be like 90-10 come playoff time.
Gordon still had the 13th most weighted opportunities last year.
Yeah, he fucking sucked, though.
Yeah, he wasn't great. I mean, no, he did have 10 touchdowns.
Which is why they traded up to get him, because they knew Miami was about to take him.
He did have 10 touchdowns, so I mean, he showed the ability to score points for the team, like for the actual NFL
I could fall
team.
Into an end zone.
I'm just saying, I don't know, man. It seems, it just seems like it's more wanting than actually like thinking about the situation, and
I wanting Melvin Gordon to not be dead, and he's
I don't have
decomposing.
I have 0 Melvin Gordon. I promise you, I do not I don't care about Melvin Gordon. I have 15 Dynasty teams, and I do not have a single share of Melvin Gordon. This is not me being like, please work out. I just don't see it with Javonte. I mean, there are things in place where I could be wrong. Teams that trade up for running backs tend to put them on the field more often or more quickly. So there are ways that he sees the field and sees the ball more, but it just seems unlikely to me. But I guess we'll find out at the end of the year. So that's it for Linda. But let's go ahead and get into my boy, another Broncos fan. For some reason, we're starting with all Broncos fans here. And it's kind of funny because based on Linda's first take, now we have at Nathan GN, Justin Herbert is not a QB1. So not only are we saying not the QB1, we're saying not even a QB1. What do you think about that one?
Sorry, I couldn't hear you. The headphones were off, dude. Not a QB1? Who the fuck do you have over him? Who? How is he not a top 12 quarterback? What the fuck are you talking about, Nate? Nate is also the guy that bet that Melvin Gordon would be like a top 12 running back against me. He already conceded that one. So I'm waiting for you to come and say, I'm sorry for this one. Because goddamn, that was awful. That's terrible, Nate.
Maybe that's why I'm all aboard the Melvin Gordon train because he's my Coney in the redraft league.
Like who is ahead of him? Kirk Cousins, Matt Ryan, Tua. I mean T-Law. Like you have to push him down 5 spots from my ranking. So like who the fuck? You Hurts over Herbert? No way. There's just no way.
Nah, I can't get behind this one. Like as much trouble as I had, getting behind the QB1 with Linda, I can't go the opposite direction either. Like he showed too much, and I do think there was a little bit of luck involved in everything. But I mean, that's any QB that has a QB1 season probably has a little bit of luck involved, and I don't think that it was all just luck. I think he actually has talent. He actually has skill. I have him as my QB8 in redraft for redraft purposes. So I mean, I'm not saying it's impossible for him to fall out, but like you said, like who are you going to put above him? You know, that's like realistically above him that don't have their own question marks and like things like that. I don't know. You added to the offensive line. Eckler's going to be back, you know, assuming health and everything. I'm never assuming injuries, so it just seems like you're. You know, even Keenan missed time last year. Mike Williams always misses time, but like he missed time. I feel like you're really just hating on Herbert at that point. That's really about all there is to it.
Yeah, that's just some blatant hate, man.
It really is. Speaking of hate, this is another one. He has to just hate the Chargers because his second take is Austin Eckler is the RB15. Now, once again, he did not specify if it was talking about Dynasty or redraft, but RB15, I don't know. What do you think of that one?
It's not as hot. You know, I've been a resident Eckler fan for the whole offseason, and it seems like everybody's been pounding on the Eckler table. So now I'm starting to fade a little bit because he seems to be rising in value and in rankings. But when I was doing this 30-minute ranking challenge for the redraft, it was tough going after like the top 7 or 8 because I have Eckler at the start of this, you know, mesh tier of running backs with Eckler, AG, Mixon, Dobbins, Sanders, Swift, Najee, CEH. Like, so it's not crazy. I could see you having. I just have Eckler above those guys in that tier, but that's not that wild. I don't agree with it. I think he has a higher ceiling than other guys and a higher floor, but I can definitely see where he falls below Dobbins, Sanders, Swift, Najee. So it's not that wild.
Yeah, there's definitely a tier there, and you could really move all of these guys up or down in the tier and not be that crazy, you know. Like, and it kind of sucks because you go, oh, you know, J.K. Dobbins is the running back 15, and somebody goes, you're fucking crazy, and and then you go
13, dude.
Yeah. Yeah, and then you go like, yeah, like, okay, who do you have over him? And it's all the same freaking guys, you know. I think until we've talked about it before, you know, until you actually do your own rankings, it's so difficult because you think that you absolutely love this guy, and then you start like realistically thinking about it, and you're like, wait, well, I can't put this guy over him, I can't do this guy over him, and you're like, wait, he is running back 15. What the hell?
Yeah, that was my Calvin Ridley ranking last year.
Yeah, you know, and honestly, it was an eye opener for me because I'd always kind of done like rankings, but never like true rankings, and you know, even like literally just sitting down and doing it changes things, and I would recommend that anybody does it. But going back to Nate here, I really think, you know, like when Eck was healthy last year, he was the running back 9 in points per game. That was with a rookie quarterback with a bad offensive line, you know, and coming off of injuries and everything, and he was still the running back 9. Now, I think that the passing attempts will come down, which will obviously the targets and receptions will come down a little bit. So maybe he doesn't take a step forward, but I feel like that like running back 9 to running back 12 area, you know, is like pretty good for him, and he's obviously going to have some big games if they're coming back, and you know. I don't know. Running back 15 just seems kind of like he's hating, you know, especially when you're hating on Herbert and you're hating on Eckler. Seems like maybe you just don't like the Chargers a little bit.
It sounds like a fucking Broncos fan, doesn't it?
It does sound like a Broncos fan now that I think about it. But yeah, I mean, they upgraded the offensive line, and then, you know, obviously fully expecting health at this point. I think he'll have
defensive players coming back too.
Yeah, and their defense is getting better. I mean, I guess for him, it might actually be better if the defensive players don't come back, because, you know. But you know, normally for a running back, you want the defense to be as good as possible, but maybe not with him. But regardless, I feel like running back 15 is kind of his floor, you know, like, or at least close to it. Maybe his floor is like running back 20 or something like that, assuming health. So it's a little hot. I think the Herbert one's a lot more hot. Not a QB one.
I need glue to keep my headphones on after that one.
All right, so this one, I think you feel a little differently, but this one was really hot. If I had headphones on, like I have these little teeny tiny headphones, like they're about to go off, like what? But at Wyatt B_FF, my boy Wyatt, he went a little hot, a little crazy with this one. CEH is not a top 16 running back. And to me, that's pretty crazy. And I guess I really should. Now that I'm thinking about it, I really should have gone through and asked if these were dynasty or redraft takes. But either way,
these are redraft. These are redraft for sure.
Okay, but yeah, not a top 16 running back. What the fuck?
My headphones are on because I have him ranked as RB16.
Oh no,
he's at the end of that tier of those running backs where you could see Eckler go to the bottom of Eckler, AG, Mixon, Dobbins, Sanders, Swift, Najee, CEH. Like there's a clear tier there, and then you have Carson, Monty, and I mean Aaron Jones might find his way back up now. This was before the Aaron Rodgers news, but CEH, I don't think people are in love with the Reed. Like Andy Reid making Brian Westbrook and Jamal Charles. But those were with captain checkdowns, baby. Pat Mahomes does not check down. He doesn't do it. He will, but not nearly as much that you need CEH to be a top RB1. I don't think he has a chance of being an RB1 this year.
I mean, I definitely disagree with there because I have him much higher. But but like once again, I do think there's a pretty big tier, and like he could be, even though I have him ranked much higher, like it wouldn't be that crazy for him to be at like 14 or 13 or something like that. But he was a running back 20 in points per game last year with having the injuries that he had and only having a 1.8% touchdown rate and the offensive line that they had. As we saw what that offensive line was towards the end of the year. He started off, I mean, amazingly. If you look at the first half of the season, before the offensive line just went to shambles, like he was getting 15, 16, 20 points a week, and then it just didn't happen at the end of the year when he wasn't healthy. The offensive line wasn't healthy, and he wasn't out there for third down, third downs and everything. I think, assuming that he's getting better at pass blocking and things like a second-year running back would normally be expected to do, then he should be out there more often. Obviously, Le'Veon Bell wasn't taking rushes, but he was out there for third downs because of the pass blocking and everything. If he can take over that role, and then if he can get more than 1.8% touchdown rate, which is extremely low, especially for somebody that was doing the things that he was doing, because the things that I look at like juke rate and breakaway run rate and all that kind of all the rates, I think that he did very well in all of those things, and yet he just didn't truly perform like we expected him to. So I think it'll kind of come back to it, but he doesn't have to do that much more to get up to the running back 16 is my point.
Well, he doesn't have to do much more, but they have to change their philosophy as an offense, which could happen, but it would need to be a change where they don't go for the home run all the time, because that's what Pat Mahomes does. And on top of that, I just don't think CEH is very good. I think he's just another Jag who's in a great spot.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I agree with Jag, but he's not the top tier running back. I think he's just in a good situation that's going to score a lot of points. And last year he was in the same situation, but they just didn't work out. Like it was just random chance, in my opinion, at least.
There's just so many other options for that offense. I mean, in the red zone, even you got Kelsey on those freaking shovel passes. You don't have Tyreek in the red zone, but isn't Sammy Watkins went to Baltimore. Anyways, I don't know. I just don't think he's. I have him as RB16, so I don't think it's so hot.
So apparently, you think that Wyatt's out of his damn mind because you have him as a top 16 running back, and that's all that really matters to me. But let's get to let's get to the next one from Wyatt. This one is very hot, and actually, when you look at the numbers, it doesn't seem that hot, but somehow it just seems extremely hot when you actually say it out loud. And it's Bobby Trees is a top 8 wide receiver this year. And I mean, I went back and looked. The last 3 years, he's been the wide receiver 11, 14, and 13.
Yeah, hovering around 1.
He's been hovering right around a wide receiver 1. It doesn't seem that crazy, or doesn't seem like it should be that crazy for him to move up to wide receiver 8. But yet, when you really start thinking about it, and once again, when you sit down and actually do your own rankings, whether it's redraft, dynasty, whatever, you actually sit down and do those rankings, you cannot put Robert Woods at wide receiver 8. You cannot do it.
But that's the difference, I think, is when you're ranking, you're going for everything right. But then I guess if he's a top 8 wide receiver, you're putting him as top 8 in your rankings. I just can't do that.
No, you can't do it.
But I got him at 13, man. I'm right there. like I'm high as fuck, but it's just a couple spots. Like you're ahead. Like, who am I putting him ahead of? Devontae Adams, CeeDee Lamb, AJ Brown, Cooper Keenan. Like maybe what Cooper and Julio. I'm high on Julio. That still only brings him to 10 at best. Like it's hot, but it's a good addition to the pod.
I think, and no, this came in after the Akers injury, but I think people are worried or like assuming that the Akers injury is helping Stafford.
No,
and I just don't. I don't see that. Like I don't. If you think that like a QB is going to get better because their star running back got hurt,
and that's not how Jag now.
Yeah, like when you get a major downgrade at a position, that doesn't help the QB. And then their defense is still really good. You know, the great thing about the Cowboys, the reason why we love the Cowboys wide receivers so much, even Gallup, is because they're going to throw the ball so fucking much. You know, like it's not that I'm not saying that they won't throw the ball. I think last year with Goff, they threw the ball around like league average. It was like 15th or 16th most times. I expect it to be around the same. I mean, maybe it's a little bit higher, but I mean, it's not. I don't think it's going to be all of a sudden a top 10 passing offense because their defense is so good, unless they have major injuries and stuff like the Chargers did. But but once again, we're not banking on injuries. When we're setting rankings, we're assuming everyone's healthy and that kind of thing. And I can't put him in the top 8, assuming that everyone's healthy and that everyone's playing. I can't do it. I have him at like. Actually, I should have written it down. I think I have him like wide receiver 15 for redraft. So, I mean, like, once again, I'm not saying he's garbage. I'm not saying, like I'm fading Woods or anything like that. And in fact, you're probably getting him much later in drafts. But
exactly.
I just can't put him in top 8.
Like, I can't put him that high, but I would not be surprised if he finished that high. I had him at 13, but that was before the Akers injury. And that hurts him. It hurts him. It hurts Stafford. It hurts the whole offense when you go from an actually good running back in Akers to a pile of dog shit in Darrell Henderson.
Exactly. if you didn't know, Duchesne's does not like Darrell Henderson.
He's just not good, dude. They only drafted Akers in the second round because he wasn't good. I
feel like Henderson is basically like Rojo Dose. Like he's very.
I think
basically
Rojo's
like
better,
Ronald Jones.
but yeah.
I mean, like very similar. Like they're not really
athletically better.
Yeah, they're not really great. They're just like they can hit a hole if
they
if
can
you
be
need them to.
RB1s because it's a volume position. Mike fucking Davis was an RB1 last year. Like he can do it, but he's not. You aren't going to be too happy about it.
Yeah, and they're never going to like win you a league. They're going to be like, okay, that was great. You won me a game, but you didn't win me.
You got me to the playoffs.
Yeah, exactly. And then his last one was, which is another pretty spicy one, is OBJ is a top 16 wide receiver. Headphones on, headphones off.
No, what was that? What was that?
We have an official headphones off.
Why you owe me a new pair of headphones, dude? Wide receiver 16? Are we living in 2016? Like, there's just no way, dude. Like, even though I love the Browns and I think that offense smashes, I think Landry's probably the wide receiver one in that offense. Like, he's coming off of the ACL. I think he has a decent year, and he could even have a good year next year. But the first year off the ACL. And he has
does Wyatt have Andrew Luck, Josh Gordon, Calvin Johnson? He still has all of those guys on his team, right? Because I'm thinking anybody that's still banking on OBJ as a top 16 receiver is just living in the past at this point. I mean, you can't. I understand that he has talent. I understand that he even showed flashes last year, but now you add another major injury to that, and I don't know. Like the people that are like, I'll never touch OBJ, I'll never draft him. Like those people are wrong. The people that are saying OBJ is a top 16 wide receiver, those people are wrong as well.
You must have him everywhere because you can get him for like wide receiver 40.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Wyatt has all of the OBJ apparently. I don't have any, and I would like to have at least like 1 or 2 shares just because I do feel like he can contribute, and at his price, like he could probably beat his price, like be like the wide receiver 28 or something like that. Yep. I just don't. I can't get on board. Like maybe even sneak into the wide receiver 2. Like maybe
23.
Yeah, exactly. Wide receiver 23. Full, assuming health and everything. But yeah,
wide receivers, a lot of touchdowns.
Especially when you're talking about like we've added some really good wide receivers the past couple of years, And so it's not like we're talking about even like 3 years ago when he could have been healthy or should have been healthy or whatever. We're talking about now where we've added that many more guys, and we're expecting those guys to take leaps, and some guys even to come back from health. But that brings us to our next one. It's from our boy, and congratulations at FF _spaceman. Congratulations on the new baby. We love you. Very happy for you and the space mama and the space baby. You did it, man. You finally did it. But this take did not do it for me. I know Duchesne's is a big fan of Rondale Moore, and he probably agrees with this take. But it's Rondale Moore leads all rookie wide receivers in fantasy points. That is hot, my friend.
I have been taking a lot of flack because I've been saying Rondale Moore leads all rookies in targets. Now, I am not going as far to say fantasy points because I don't think he has the yards, the A dot, and the touchdown numbers that you'll see Chase get, or maybe Devontae Smith if he's healthy. So this is hot. I'm not taking my headphones off. All right, we're headphones on because I think he'll be the biggest surprise to rookies, and I still stand by he leads the rookies in targets. I don't think he leads them in fantasy points.
Yeah, I think even with the role, like you said, I don't think him leading in targets is that crazy.
Yeah,
but with the role he has,
do though. I've been torn apart for that.
No, but with the role I would still lean Chase just because the defense
Really?
that
I would
the
think
Bengals.
Smith would be the favorite.
I don't know if they're going to run or pass enough. Just because you have a rushing QB.
Yeah.
There's going to be times where he's going to decide to run the ball rather than pass it. I do think he'll be up there, but I just think Chase is going to be heavily targeted with in a defense that isn't very good. They didn't really do much to add to the defense. They worried about the offense. I mean, they were like, hey, let's make a strength of strength or whatever. I guess it works, but it's tough for me, but I think they'll be close in targets. But the points, Chase is going to be a mile away from Rondale. It's just the type of receiver. I mean, we saw it in college. Rondale was very, very good. He was heavily targeted, and he did a lot with the ball. But he was targeted so short. He had such a short ADOT that meant he got 7 yards, 9 yards, whatever. He's not breaking off 40-yard bombs and doing that unless they use him different.
He wasn't breaking off bombs, but he was breaking them off after the catch because he's the best after the catch in the class. But it's just that, he's going to be targeted. Kyler has one of the lowest ADOTs. Rondale Moore is a low ADOT volume receiver. I think he leads in targets, but Chase is going to have an ADOT that's 3 times as much as Rondale Moore, and he should have double the touchdown numbers. Yeah,
and you still have to. I mean, don't get me wrong. I know people love them some Higgins, but Higgins is not Nook. He's not DeAndre Hopkins, and so when you're comparing the two, DeAndre is still going to get his 28% target share, something around there, and I mean, I do not fall for camp hype, but man, they are hyping AJ Green right now. They are hyping him.
Look out here with that. It's DeAndre Hopkins, Rondale Moore, or running back Chase Edmonds. That's it. Those are the only 3 fucking options.
And I agree with you, but still, DeAndre Hopkins getting a 28% share is enough to be he's going to get his. And so Rondale, even with a decent amount of targets, they run a lot of four wide receiver sets and everything, but I don't see it. I'm with you fully.
And you're not targeting Rondale in the red zone.
No, it's going to be. He's going to be in between the 20s kind of player, and it's going to be great for the team. And it'll probably even be decent for your actual dynasty teams or fantasy teams.
I think he'll be excellent for it, but he's not going to be the highest scoring rookie.
I think he's going to be the wide receiver 4, something like that for rookies. Something around there.
I'd say 2, honestly.
I really feel like Chase, Smith, and Waddle are all going to be ahead of him. After that, it starts getting a little iffy. I mean, Bateman is kind of in the discussion, but I feel like they won't be that different. But that's just how I have it ranked right now.
Chase is head and shoulders above everybody.
Yeah, that's probably the easiest way to say it.
Yeah.
Which brings us to another guy talking about a second-year leap, and it is our boy Omega King. Omega King 1414, and it's Ayuk. Brandon Ayuk takes the biggest second-year leap of the 2020 wide receivers. Omega, get the fuck out of here. That shit's crazy. That's hot.
You got to think math here. Ayuk you're already starting here. So like, where's he going to jump to? Wide receiver one. You got to start here and find that huge jump, and that's Jerry Judy, baby. That's Jerry Judy.
Judy, that's exactly what I was about to say. Not only that, but if nothing was changing on that team, maybe you talk about a second year leap, or like a massive like that's the thing. He's not just saying he's taking a second year leap. He's talking about he's taking the biggest second year leap of any player. And when we have people like Judy, when we have players like that, and Dave Toronto Dave. Why is your name backwards? I don't like that. I want Toronto Dave. I don't like it being backwards, but he loves him some Judy. I don't know. Judy seems like the correct answer. And I like Ayuk. I like his talent. But you're talking about a rookie QB coming in at some point. Also, another rushing QB like we were talking about. And also one of the most raw prospects that we've seen in a very long time. And J.J. Zachariason's talk about what rookie QBs do in general for wide receivers. They generally don't have very many wide receiver ones. And if they do, it's only one. And then, I'm not even talking about Deebo Samuel being healthy, George Kittle being healthy, or them adding additions like Trey Sermon. And I mean, I probably shouldn't even mention it, but Jalen Hurd being healthy. I know, I shouldn't have said it. But like, I can see him being a good piece for your team. I can see him being a wide receiver too. I do not see him taking a jump or a leap. If anything, I'd see him taking a small step back,
Yeah, I think he hovers around where he was, which is very good for your fantasy teams. It's a very good wide receiver. But if we're framing it the way that you said it, the biggest jump, he would have to be a top 3 wide receiver or some shit. Because I mean, what was he like a mid wide receiver 2 when it was said and done, like 20?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, for him to take the biggest jump, if we're assuming Judy's taking a jump, if we're assuming that some of these other players are like even like a Brian Edwards or Henry Ruggs, people like that, if we're assuming that they're taking a jump, then he's going to have to take a pretty massive leap into the wide receiver ones to really be that much better.
So he was wide receiver 34 in PPR, and Judy was wide receiver 47. So that's already making up 14 spots, and I think Judy finishes higher than Ayuk this year.
Yeah, and I mean, going off of points per game, you'd probably be even a little bit higher, than just the average or the total finish, because obviously he didn't start like week 1, or if he did, he wasn't like a big part of the plan. And obviously we know that Deebo and Kittle got injured, and that's when he really flourished. So I'd definitely like to see. I'd like to see him take a jump. I just think it's going to be difficult with the transition from the 2 QBs and things like that. Drop the mic. What's up, bud? Thanks for watching. So that was it from Omega. Yeah, get the hell out of here. Go Judy. Go buy Judy. Sell Ayuk. No. That brings us to our boy FF Tyler O at FF Tyler O on Twitter. And it is not that hot, but Dak equals the QB1 overall. What do you think of that one?
That's not so bad. I mean, he's in that tier that has a realistic chance. I have 5 quarterbacks that I think he's the 5th one in it, but it's a tier of 5 that could reasonably finish as the QB1. He's got the best wide receiver core in the game. I mean, maybe Tannehill with Julio and AJ Brown, but he's right there. He's got the talent. He's got the rushing ability. He's got the shitty defense. Like it's right there. That's not hot at all.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I don't expect it. I'm not ranking him that way, but like it's not that hot. It's not like unbelievable that he could be the QB1. Although Tyler's probably banking on the 7,000 yards that he was, if you extrapolate for and all that kind of stuff. That's probably what Tyler's thinking. But yeah, I don't think it's that hot. But I also think that like the offensive line being healthier. The defense being slightly better, because it's still bad, but like they were terrible last year. I think things are going to come down a little bit more, down to earth. And then we only had that small sample, and it was against 3 of the worst defenses in the league last year, except for the one good defense that they played was the Rams in week 1, and he had like 16 points. So it's really tough to base everything off of those 4 weeks, but I think it'll come down to earth a little bit. But like I said, not absolutely insane. I think I have him as like QB5 or something like that. So definitely up there. That brings us to our next one, and it's Marvin Jones is a top 30 wide receiver this year.
There's like 50 wide receivers that could be 24 through 60. So like, it might sound hot off the tongue, but it's not.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, people. He's changing teams. He has a rookie quarterback. People are probably just completely forgetting. Like they kind of already forgot about him last year anyway. And then he still did pretty well. Now, obviously, that was with Matthew Stafford, different team, all that kind of good stuff. But we're all sitting here ranking Trevor Lawrence as like a top 10, at least a top 12 quarterback, and yet nobody wants any of his receivers except for Laviska Shenault for whatever reason.
Yeah, so, his own coach doesn't even want him.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, like, and like you said, that's such a tier from like wide receiver 28 to wide receiver like 46 or something like that. Like that's such a huge tier. Like all those players could do it, and I have him as wide receiver 38. So that's not hot. Like it's not that hot. Like he could easily finish as wide receiver 30.
Yeah, I don't agree with it, but I wouldn't be surprised if he's wide receiver 28.
Dave says it's a pretty low bar. It definitely is. Yeah, like I actually no, like thinking about it now, between the Dak QB1 and the Marvin Jones wide receiver 30, Tyler's coming in with the lukewarm bathwater takes right now.
It was like I just saw on Twitter before I hopped on, Adam Humphries reuniting with Fitzpatrick will absolutely beat his ADP, which is like wide receiver 105. It's like dude, what, he catches one ball? Like
he's gonna be wide receiver 86. Fuck all y'all bitches.
And he's gonna do nothing for your fantasy teams.
Exactly.
But yeah, Marvin Jones should beat his ADP. I wouldn't be surprised if he's top 30.
All right, so Tyler's last one probably would have been hot before today or before like this week, and this actually came in before this week, and so I'm assuming he thought it was kind of spicy when he said it, and it was JT is not a top 6 running back this year. Once again, this is before the Wentz news, this is before the Quentin Nelson news, and the other offensive lineman that got injured. So obviously things have changed quite a bit since then, but what do you think about JT not being a top 6 redraft running back?
He never was.
That's exactly it. He wasn't a top 6 running back. People thought he was just because of the way he ended the year and everything, but he wasn't going to be a top 6 running back. He got a shitload of targets because of Phillip Rivers, and that's what Phillip Rivers does. And now Phillip Rivers is no longer on the team. Carson Wentz could have been healthy. Quentin Nelson could have been healthy. He wasn't going to be a top 6 running back unless he had some like insane touchdown rate, which he probably wasn't getting. But Mike agrees with this, so we appreciate that too. And Dave said top 6 is hard to do regardless, which is also true. I mean, all right, so once again, Tyler just came in with like the most bathwater, lukewarm takes in the world, and you gotta step up the game there, Tyler. That brings us to our Lithuanian fan, Tot, one of our good friends here, and it's at Cinelio on Twitter, Cinelioo, and he had some pretty bathwater, lukewarm takes as well. Like I don't really disagree with too many of these, so I'll go over them pretty quickly. But it was Russell Wilson is the QB1 overall. Derrick Henry is the RB1 overall. And then the third one gets a little spicy. So why don't you go ahead and talk about the first two? What do you think of those?
I don't agree with them. They both have the chance to do it. I just don't think they will. Russell Wilson, we've seen on fire and it slows down. I think they might try and run the ball more this year. I have him right outside that tier of quarterbacks that I really think have a chance to finish as the QB1. He's got the 2 weapons, and he has the rushing ability. But I don't have like some stats or some real narrative to throw at you. I don't see him being the QB1 at the end of the year.
Well, So this is my chance. This is my opportunity to talk about danger rate.
Hey,
Yay! There we are. So, I've been working on this danger rate crap, and but I've also been working on interception regression, which is, Deshanes loves that shit. And anytime you can mention regression, he loves it. But he actually threw 17% more interceptions last year than he should have. He threw a lot more interceptions than he should have. And I've seen from the research that I've done that year to year that regresses back to the mean, and sometimes it'll even regress way, in the other direction. And so I'm not saying all of a sudden he's going to be the QB1 just because of interceptions, but I'm saying like last year he started off so hot, and in the second half of the year he had an insane amount of interceptions compared to what he should have had because of the danger plays and the danger rate that he had. And I see that kind of leveling out. And because of that, I have him as a top 5 QB this year. So it's kind of the same thing with Dak. I'm not saying that he will be QB1. I definitely have a different QB1, but I don't think it's that spicy or that hot, like to say like he could finish as the QB1.
I put a lot of stock in divisions, and maybe that's stupid. I don't know if there's actually like anything written about this, but first of all, I think division games are tough no matter what. For the most part, unless you have fucking the Lions or the Texans of last year. But I think divisional games are tough, and he's getting the toughest division. So 6 of his games, he's got 2 Rams, 2 49ers that are coming back healthy that play him tough, and then 2 Cardinals games and they're on the up. Like they're improving their defense. So that's 6 games of your 16 or 17 fantasy games right there that are tough, and that's without looking at the rest of the schedule. I think Russ is a fantastic quarterback, and I would love him as my QB1. I don't have him finishing as the QB1.
No, that's a good point. But Derrick Henry, that one's not spicy at all, right? I mean,
I just posted yesterday on Twitter running backs with the chance of finishing as the RB1 in order, and Henry made the list. I didn't put Chubb on there because I just didn't feel like I could have gotten more engagement, gotten that clickbait, because I do think that Chubb can finish as the RB1. I think Derrick Henry absolutely can, but I don't think he does. He doesn't have the receptions, which is why we don't play full PPR, because full PPR is fucking broken.
Sucks.
But I think he takes a step back in his usage, and he's still a fantastic running back. He's still a fantastic RB1. He's still great at ADP, but he doesn't have the RB1 upside because I think Julio and A.J. Brown are fucking balling out this year.
Yeah, I agree. Dave, God damn it. Toronto Dave, I hate your name. Dave Toronto is just fucking me up. Toronto Dave says Henry was RB4 in PPR, if I remember correctly. Once again, this is why we don't do full point PPR for running backs. That's garbage. Tiered PPR is the way. And more importantly, I think Dave says he's going to try and change the name. Thank you, my friend. But more importantly, when talking about him finishing as the RB4, I actually think that offense could be more efficient this year. Everyone hates on Corey Davis. You add in Julio Jones, one of the best wide receivers in the league, if not the best. And I actually think that offense could be more efficient this year. And if that's the case, then he scores more touchdowns. I'm not expecting him to have more yards. I mean, although obviously there's one more game, but I mean just per game, I'm not expecting him to have more yards. But I feel like it's not that crazy for him to be the one.
There are some people that are fading him because of history of 2,000-yard rushers, and that's fucking stupid.
Yeah.
We use past production to predict future production, but we don't do past production from different fucking players in different situations on different teams in different eras. That's a stupid reason to be fading Derrick Henry.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, you have all these players that like completely fell off after the 2,000 yards seasons, except for Adrian Peterson, and everyone's like, well, yeah, but like all these other players did, like the other. Side. But the other 3 players, don't get out of this fucking small sample shit.
Yeah, because Derrick Henry's fucking Chris Johnson, dude. Like, shut up.
Yeah, the 250-pound Derrick Henry. He's exactly the same as Chris Johnson. And Drop the Mic says, we all know how you feel about Chubb. And honestly, I would have put, I don't know if I would have put him as a RB1, at the RB1, but he's obviously a very high-end RB1. So. But then the last one that Tot had for us gets a little spicier. Maybe he's banking on some injuries. Maybe I don't know exactly what he's thinking, but Fant breaks into Noah Fant breaks into the top 3 tight ends. What do you think of that one?
I loved this idea a couple months ago when I was thinking that Deshaun Watson was going there, and then I faded it. But then I was back on it because I thought Aaron Rodgers might go there. Then I was back off of it. Then I was back on it because I thought Jimmy Garoppolo might. No one's going there. They have no fucking quarterback. He's still high for me. I've got him at like 8. But he could be there at 3 because if anyone gets injured, either Waller or Kelsey, if either of them gets injured, it's just the one's a foregone conclusion, and now it's literally a toss up for 2 or 3. And people are high on Hawkinson, but I don't think that the Lions are going to be worth a damn at all. I don't care if he gets a big target share. Fant could go for fucking 60, 1,200, and 12 touchdowns. That's tight end 3.
Yeah, my thing is when I'm ranking and even for hot takes, like I'm not banking on injuries. I don't want to bank on injuries, and I feel like that's what you're kind of banking on here. Beyond that, you're adding Cortland Sutton back, and we don't know if he's going to be 100% healthy, 100% back, and like that kind of thing, at least in the beginning of the year. But he's still there, and he's still gonna get targeted because of it. We know that Fant hasn't been 100% healthy himself, but once again, I'm not gonna like sit there and talk about injuries with him. I'm hoping and assuming he'll be fully healthy as well. But then, and then now you have a second-year Judy. We're expecting him to take that leap that we were talking about before. And so you have a second-year Judy, assuming that we have a better QB this year than last year. Like I see Fant being a good tight end. And, we know that after tight end 6, 7, whatever, just completely falls off. I expect him to be up there in that top 6 mix. But top 3, at that point, I feel like you're just banking on injuries, and I'm definitely not doing all that.
Yeah, because you have Kelsey, Waller, Kittle. That's really like the top 3. I know it's chalk, but like he's in that tier after Mandrews, Hawk, Fant. Pitts. Like, so if one of those guys gets injured and he finishes at the top of that tier, he's already there at tight end 3 because it's just such a weak and shallow position.
Yeah, and then the other thing that we talked about was, them trading up for Javonte Williams. If you're expecting Javonte Williams to be this stud, then I don't know if we can really expect, them to be passing enough to feed Sutton, Judy, Fant, Hamler, everyone else. So it just seems like it's asking or wanting a lot, and I'm definitely not behind it. But give me Derrick Henry, the RB1 overall all day long. I'll take it. And also change your scoring settings. Do not have full PPR because that's garbage. If you need any hints or tips, slide into the DMs. I can give you them because I've created quite a few leagues at this point where I have changed the scoring settings, and we have some pretty good leagues now. It's a lot of fun. That's going to bring us to, we have 2 people talking about the same player here, and it's at FF_Rebel and at Brother_FF. And they're talking about A.J. Dillon, and Rebel says A.J. Dillon is going to be an RB2 this season, but that leads us to the actual hot take, which is Brother_FF says A.J. Dillon is a top 20 running back and takes over as the lead back in Green Bay by the end of the year. That is extremely hot in my eyes. I think you kind of have to be you kind of just have to be banking on injury once again, because what have we seen from the Packers or from Aaron Jones besides him missing a couple games here or there that he wouldn't be the RB1 in that team? I was all aboard the A.J. Dillon train for a while because I thought that Aaron Jones was going to be gone. Aaron Jones is still there. I like A.J. Dillon. I like his talent. I think he can be a good running back in the NFL. I don't think he's good enough to take Aaron Jones' job. I don't think he's going to take your job or anything like that. It just doesn't seem likely. But what do you think, Deshanes?
Was this Brother Roz's or Rebel?
Yeah. So Rebel just had him as an RB2, and then Roz has him as an RB or a top 20 RB, but also taking the lead back before the end of the year.
Yep. So we're on the AJ Dillon ones. I know he's not a top 20 RB. I can't do that. Aaron Jones is the dude, man. And they posted the pictures. This is the last dance. They didn't have no dances with AJ Dillon. All right, this is the last dance. Aaron Jones is the guy this year. All right, so ride it one more time. He's going to be undervalued. He's going to be underdrafted. And midway through the year, if you're so high on AJ Dillon, dude, go get him for a second. Go give some running back that's popping off. Add a second to him. It's okay to overpay for your guys because there's nothing wrong with thinking that AJ Dillon's the guy next year and could be a serviceable guy. If you're banking on an injury, like John said, Aaron Jones injury, it's just not good practice. It's not good practice to be banking on that. It's great when it happens, but you don't even feel good when that happens. You know.
Yeah, the only thing I can say is that AJ Dillon's going as like the running back 44 in rookie or redraft drafts right now, and so it's one of those things where you can have him as a very good handcuff, or somebody else's handcuff, and just have him as a good pickup, like late round pickup. But banking on him as a top 20 running back is probably a fool's errand. For dynasty purposes, I love having AJ Dillon. In fact, I traded for AJ Dillon with you, Duchesne's, earlier in the offseason. So I like adding him in trades, but there's a very big difference between adding him in trades and like hoping he's going to be a top 20 RB for you.
Yeah, that deal was, man, it was like Herbert and AJ Dillon, and so, I shouldn't even say it without having the full thing up, but it was a good trade, and I still like it now.
It was risky on my part. It was Herbert.
I also added Chase. Yeah,
yeah. It was Herbert for Mac Jones, Chase, and AJ Dillon. I might have thrown something else in. I don't remember, but those were like the
that was
main
it. Mac
pieces.
Jones, Chase and AJ Dillon for Herbert. Yeah, that was the deal. I
Yeah,
think it's still a good deal. Both sides.
but that's the kind of stuff where I like getting AJ Dillon thrown into a deal. I don't like trusting him as like, yeah, I don't. Well, yeah, because you wanted to give me like a second or a third or something like that. I'm like, nah, just give me AJ Dillon instead. You know,
I wasn't big on AJ Dillon, anyways.
Yeah, but he's going to be. I don't like people comparing him to Derrick Henry, but I mean there are a lot of similarities. Like there really are, and so
they both play running back.
One of the similarities might be that it just might be 2 or 3 years before he really like breaks out, and unfortunately, like that's just the way shit happens sometimes. And like that's what happened with Derrick Henry. I don't think it was a talent thing. We can see now, like it just sometimes NFL coaches, NFL teams don't utilize these players the way that we want them to. But in a year from now, or he could be a stud for your team if you get him thrown into trades. But yeah, get out of here with this top 20 stuff. Like I could see him being a top running back 3. I could definitely see that. Like there's no issues with that. We know how they used Jamal Williams last year. I expect them to use him on the goal line. But I feel like if you're talking about top 20 or even just an RB2, I feel like you're talking about like him scoring a shitload of touchdowns, and at that point you're probably banking on something that's not like a given, and I don't want to do that going into the season.
Speaking of Jamal Williams, I would rather Jamal Williams or even Gus Edwards to AJ Dillon, especially in redraft.
I don't know about Williams, but I would definitely go with Edwards over AJ Dillon. But I think we talked about this before, and we both agreed that AJ Dillon is the handcuff in redraft, in Dynasty, or whatever. He's the best handcuff because especially with Aaron Rodgers being back, like he will score a shitload of points if Aaron Jones does go down.
Yep.
So that brings us to our hot takes. So we're gonna get a little spicier here. Although I feel like yours weren't as spicy as I kind of expected them to be, except for maybe the first one, or maybe we should make it the last one.
It looked a lot worse the 24 hours that came after I posted it, but we're looking a little better now.
Yeah, we're looking better now. All right, let's make that one the last one because I feel like it's the hottest. Well, let's start with it's probably one that's considered spicy. I don't really see it that way, but Julio Jones over AJ Brown. Go ahead and give your reasoning, and then I'll let you know how hot it is.
He's the alpha, baby. AJ Brown gushes and looks up to the kid. He ain't gonna fucking outproduce him this year. I just think Julio is the better wide receiver at this point. I've got AJ Brown way higher in my dynasty rankings, of course. But I'm still high. I'm probably higher than most people are on Julio still. He's in my top 24 of dynasty wide receivers still. I think he's a stud. He's going to be I think he's going to be a top 10 wide receiver this year with Tannehill in a great offense. The red zone woes, those are not on Julio. Those are on Matt Ryan. If you go look back, Matt Ryan struggles in the red zone, always has. Great between the 20s, though. Good quarterback. And I just think that he's the one in that offense, and he's the better wide receiver. And this has nothing to do with the fact that you get him 6 rounds later or whatever. Yeah, 4 rounds later in redraft.
Yeah, probably, but I'm 100% on board with you. I actually have him 2 spots ahead of AJ Brown in redraft rankings. I just don't see one's. I hate that we're going back to injury on everything, but I feel like if you're talking about Julio not outproducing AJ Brown, it's because of injury, and I'm not about that life once again. So I think that we've seen what Julio has done throughout his career. He actually, even though he was injured last year, he actually performed at an extremely high level. Even though he was trying to play through injury, he was still a top wide receiver when he was on the field. And so I don't want people to think like, oh, just because of last year he missed some games, he tried to play through it, that like all of a sudden he's just washed. That's not the case. There's players that try to play through injuries, that try to extend their careers, and they are washed. Julio is not that guy. AJ Brown is a very good up-and-coming wide receiver. He is not Julio Jones, and I feel like Ryan Tannehill is going to figure that out pretty quickly. And once, like Duce said, the problem with the whole red zone and everything was not Julio Jones. Like, we've seen what Julio Jones can do in the red zone, or just in general. And that doesn't just go away because he's in the 20s or beyond the 20s. So I think that Julio Jones is a top 12 wide receiver this year, assuming health. And I don't know if I can quite say the same with AJ Brown, although he'll probably be pretty close because he is a very efficient wide receiver.
That's where he makes his money, is the efficiency.
Yeah, and obviously that's what you need with a low volume offense and everything like that. But I just drafted Julio in that redraft league that we're in, and I have the Henry and Julio stack. People are always like, oh, but Henry goes away when they're losing. Okay, well, now I got Julio too. So what do you think of that?
It's good to stack the wide receiver and running back on teams, on offenses you expect to be good, because you just probably gathered 50% of their offensive touchdowns, roughly. Like,
that's how I'm looking at it, and that was like the conversation that went down. Is like, yeah, they're gonna score points. Julio's gonna be Julio no matter what. But on that off game where we see it like once or twice a year where Henry just has that game where he has like 9 points because he still got you 90 yards, but he didn't score any touchdowns and that kind of thing. Okay, well now Julio has 2 touchdowns. So like we're still sitting pretty. But yeah, I'm all about that one. I don't even think it's that hot, although I feel like the community just loves AJ Brown so much, and they're down on Julio, so it seems hot, but it really shouldn't be. But now we get to a spicy one. Why don't you tell us about your boy Devontae Parker?
I don't understand why it's so spicy, though. I mean, I've been very strong on it because I'm mirroring the angst and the animosity that my Devontae Parker is the wide receiver 1 Dolphin wide receiver. The hate that's getting is making me have to go reflect and go headphones off. But it's so easy to me that Devontae Parker is the wide receiver 1 in Miami because the other 2 guys are just not guys that I'm willing to bet on. And also we have Devontae Parker going later than all 3, but he's the alpha on that team. He's not coming into the new offense. I don't really subscribe to the wide receiver new offense, fading a guy for that reason, but
right.
Waddle, I think, is by far the best dynasty asset. But for this year, I'm taking Devontae Parker with an improved Tua who seems to be knowing the system. And when he played with Tua last year, he did decent. Like, he averaged 8 or 9 targets a game, 60 yards. And I think he was putting up, 15 points, something. Maybe not that much. But he was good with Tua his rookie year, and I expect that offense to be better. I expect him to be the wide receiver 1.
I have to disagree here. Parker hasn't shown us anything beyond the 1 year where he just completely went off in the second half of the year. He still had, even though he missed a couple games last year, he still had the 33rd most targets, and yet he still only scored 11.9 points per game. So it wasn't the 15 that you were hoping for.
Well, no, I was talking about the Tua split.
Oh, okay, yeah, that might be true.
I think it was 13,
I did not look.
Though.
I didn't look that, but I mean, Ryan Fitzpatrick played out of his
No,
mind
he played the
last
best
year.
with Fitz with the contested ball thing.
So like
Not fair.
I don't know, but still, 11.9 points per game, not spectacular. I think it was like wide receiver 39 in points per game, even though he had the 33rd most targets. He's not overly efficient. He's not doing anything like overly amazing at this point. And then you add Will Fuller, which once again, health. Obviously, the one game
use
suspension.
injury as a cop out here. We've been
No, and I know your argument with Fuller, and I tend to disagree, but I can kind of see it. But I think with Waddle, I mean, if you want to discount Fuller because of the role that he plays and that kind of thing, then I think Waddle has to be the complete opposite. They can't have two Z's. Like they can't have two guys playing the same role.
Waddle will be a deep guy. I think he'll be more towards the line of scrimmage guy.
Right. So at that point, I feel like they drafted him as a top 6, overall player. Like he's going to be on the field. He's going to be used. I know people were concerned about his ankle, but he's playing right now. Like he's practicing. He seems fine. They're talking about him making big plays in practice and everything. Honestly, he seems fine to me. I'm not overly concerned about that. I just don't see how you can say this wide receiver that's never truly done it except for like a half a season.
Well, he did finish top 5 that as the season, but it was from a strong second half of the season.
Yeah, but I don't see how you can say, and it was obviously with a completely different team, different coaching situation, different everything, just about, and obviously different defense. Like their defense is pretty legit now. I don't know. I was thinking that we were arguing his points per game, but it doesn't matter as far as like the team. Like they're going to be. They're going to pass how many times they're going to pass. But as far as saying he's the wide receiver 1, I can't get behind it.
Well, you don't have to. I'll keep drafting him later.
The funny thing is, I actually have him above ADP in redraft rankings. But I think he
doesn't say much because he's so fucking low.
Yeah, I was gonna say I feel like he's
or something. There's defenses going before Devontae Parker in redraft. What are we doing? What are we doing?
He's going as like the wide receiver 50. I have him as like the wide receiver 42 or something like that.
Sweet, dude.
So
I don't know.
Apparently,
I probably have him at like 26 or something, which I think is the wide receiver 1 on that team. I think Fuller's right there with him, and Waddle as well. I think they're all 2 to 3s. I think he's the one on that team.
I mean, the thing is, there's so much changing on that team, on that offensive coordinator.
And one thing that stays the same is my point.
That's what I mean. It's impossible for me to say.
They're building around him. Can't you tell, dude?
It's impossible for me to say with 100% like conviction that he will not be the wide receiver 1 on that team. But man, it's just I cannot believe it. I just can't get behind it. And and Toronto Dave has his headphones off at this point.
Close.
Oh man. And so another one, and this is the people are gonna hate you for this one. They really are, even though I don't really know why. But why don't you talk to us about your boy Terry McLaurin?
My boy Terry McLaurin is a guy that I really like. I love him as a player. I love rooting for him. But it's just a guy that us as a community can't just seem to see without our affinity, because we hit on him with a 3rd round pick. When you hit it with a 3rd round pick like that, dude, you rate these guys so much higher than they are because they're putting up just as much as those guys you took with the 1st, even though the guys you took with them are like fucking Amari Cooper, who is going later than him, who has those wide receiver 1 finishes. He doesn't have those cute wide receiver 20 finishes when there's no one else to throw to. Okay. Now they want to feature Antonio Gibson, like Nate said. I don't even know if we covered that one, but yeah, Ron Rivera treats Gibson like CMC. Okay, they bring in Curtis Samuel on a deal. They paid him to come in there. They also extended Logan Thomas. They drafted Diami Brown. Now he's going to take the step because they got Ryan Fitzpatrick. What has he ever done? He couldn't even make Devontae Parker. But Terry McLaurin is just a guy that I really like. That's just going way too high. Right? He barely finishes inside the top 2 years, and he's been good. I know reception perception or whatever. He beats on man coverage. That's great. He's a good player. He's just not going to have the volume, and he's just not going to be a wide receiver 1 this year. There's just too many better wide receivers.
Drop the mic. Knew what was going on. Yeah, going with the reception perception, I remember when Curtis Samuel was a better wide receiver than DJ Moore, based off of reception perception.
Oh,
too.
they don't bring that one up though anymore.
No, they don't do that. And don't get me wrong, I'm not even hating on Matt Harmon or anything like that.
I'm not either.
The point is, like, you should never just completely bank on one particular thing. And he is a very good wide receiver, but he's had no one. He's had literally no one there. And like, he had a down year last year because he had no one. He had a bad QB situation. We're hoping the QB situation's better this year, but he also has a lot more mouse to feed, or whatever you want to call it here. And like, Logan Thomas is going in his second year in the offense. Camp hype is getting crazy about Logan Thomas again. I'm a huge fan of De'Ami Brown. And then, hey, we have that boy, Curtis Samuel, perception favorite. Curtis Samuel, he's going to take all the targets apparently. But I don't hate it. I don't hate F1. I like F1 a lot.
I love him as a player and like as a leader and as a dude. Man, I love him, but not in fantasy. Not as much as you guys.
Well, the take was he won't be a wide receiver 1, and I have him as wide receiver 15 on the year. I'm definitely not a F1 hater. I like F1 a lot, but that's obviously not a wide receiver 1. I don't think it's that hot of a take. I don't even think it's that crazy, but I feel like people think it's a pretty hot take, even though he's only going as the wide receiver 11 in redraft, like according to Fantasy Pros. So if he's going as the wide receiver 11, then you guys don't really think he's that much of a wide receiver 1 anyway.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's not like I'm saying Tyreek Hill won't be a wide receiver 1. Like, these guys that are bona fide at the top of the ADP, like, I'm saying he's not going to be he's not taking this jump that you guys are projecting. I'm sorry. I have him as 17 in redraft.
All right, so that brings us to the one that's probably going to be considered the most hot. Mike says it's not hot, but I want to disagree.
Fade Duchesne's, baby.
Fade Duchesne's. So this one's going to get a little spicy. There's probably going to be some hate mail. You're going to be receiving some letters and everything. Zach Wilson is going to be better than Trevor Lawrence this year. It was in 2021, not for dynasty purposes, just to be very clear.
Yeah, very clear. I have T-Law way higher just because I believe in the talent more. This is more of just a narrative take. I went and looked at the schedules last night when I did my rookie debut pod, where I was predicting where they would go, and I was going through the schedule more, and I was actually kind of I was not pleased to see that Trevor Lawrence has a much easier schedule, but this is more going into my fading Urban Meyer, and just I don't trust Urban Meyer in that operation to click right out of the gate, and me more so trusting Robert Saleh and Mike LaFleur and that sort of 49ers offense, as well as the talent in Wilson. Now, he's gotten some bad pub with his mom being a psycho and all that. And he's a baby. But, dude, watch the kid play, man. And we're going to have some huge Zach Wilson fans. Like the Josh Allen fans that we saw emerge this year, you're going to see a lot of that happening with Zach Wilson. I guarantee it.
Yeah, honestly, like, I wanted to call you crazy on this one, but I kind of feel the same way with the Urban Meyer thing. We've seen college coaches come in and not do what we expected, not do what we wanted them to do or hoped they were going to do. And I kind of feel the same way. I feel like they both have a good situation they're walking into where, like, they both have good wide receivers. They both have, obviously, I would say the Jags have a better running back situation, but but the Jets, they worked on their offensive line. They brought in who I'm assuming are going to be good coaches in Salah and LaFleur.
Defense is worse too, I think.
Yeah,
but they're both bad.
I don't for 2021. I don't think it's that crazy to say Wilson ends up higher. Maybe I'm not expecting it, but it's not that insane. But I could definitely see. I don't see the Jets imploding in year one. I could see the Jags imploding in year one with Meyer, and then all of a sudden Meyer has a medical issue and has to retire. And
team sucks.
Maybe that's the Florida fan in me. I still hate him for like just completely being like, oh wait, I recruited like shit. I got to get out of here. And I have a medical history. I have a medical issue. And then go into Ohio State. But yeah, I could easily see the same exact thing. They lose a few games. He's not used to losing games. I've heard that narrative before.
Neither
and
is
all
Trevor
of a sudden,
Lawrence.
Yeah, and all of a sudden they're like, "Wait, we suck. We got to get out of here." And so I don't really don't think it's that hot, but people are probably gonna come after you about that one.
It's also a bet that I like a lot. His odds to win Rookie of the Year, Offensive Rookie of the Year, are plus 1,000. So those are odds that I'm probably about to take. Might see a degenerate dilemma coming soon.
That would have been thank you. That would be great. That would have been like kind of similar, or I'm assuming to betting Justin Herbert last year. It was probably very similar odds, and people would have said you were crazy, and then here we are. So I don't think it would be that crazy for it to happen. But that'll bring us to my hot takes, and I don't feel like they're that hot, but I guess that's like me. I don't know. That's the point. Duchesne's has not seen these, so he's going to be probably headphones off here in a second. But
glad they were saved.
All right, I'm going to start with one that I think you might slightly agree with. So Baker Mayfield is a top 10 QB in 2021. What do you think?
I'm with you. I put him at 11, but that was just because that was in the ranking challenge. I think Baker absolutely smashes this year. I've been talking about it, and it might be kind of counterintuitive to me shitting on OBJ at 16 from Wyatt earlier, but that's because I just don't think everything goes to OBJ. I think it's a lot of running, a lot of passes to a lot of really good tight ends, great defense, but I think Baker and Chubb absolutely kill it this year. I just don't have OBJ killing it. So no, Baker I have him as like right there with you.
I think people just completely forget about Landry, and they're like, "Oh, OBJ's coming back, and so Landry's just gone." And like that's just not the way it's going to be. I'm not saying Landry's going to be some top 12 wide receiver or anything like that. Yeah. But I don't see. I just don't see him completely going away. And then beyond that, they have three pretty good tight ends that they can see the field and they can be used, and they use a lot of two tight end sets. So we can see a lot of that without OBJ being fed. And my wife. My wife brought me another drink, so it's obviously showing at this point. But I think we look. I'm not trying to extrapolate or anything like that, but we look at what happened in the second half of the year last year when Baker got more used to the offense, a brand new offense that Stefanski came in and brought in. We obviously know about the weather games. I've discussed quite a bit.
You've got that narrative tattooed on you for us in happy hour. As long as he doesn't play in bad weather.
but beyond that, we also know that Nick Chubb missed half a year, and so I feel like that definitely didn't help the offense by any means. And we saw Kareem Hunt. Sorry, fantasy scouts, but Kareem Hunt came in and he was not Nick Chubb. He did not do what he should have done or what people were expecting him to do if Nick Chubb went down. He was not that stud running back that the Browns needed. He was a decent running back. He was not terrible, but he was not Nick Chubb.
He never once had the RB1 upside.
No,
that was
not at all.
Whereas Chubb does if Hunt goes down.
And then you had the COVID game against the Jets later on in the year where every single wide receiver goes down. Like, I'm sorry, if you lose every single wide receiver on your team, you're probably going to have a pretty bad game. So like there was just a lot. There was a lot going on last year. I'm not trying to make excuses, but I guess I'm making excuses. But the things that I look at when I'm looking at QBs shows me that Baker is going to show up as a stud, and he still had 5 top 6 QB games or QB weeks
when
last year.
He smashed, and I expect this offense to be uber efficient this year.
Exactly. So if you're assuming like he had 5 last year, let's just say he has 8.
Yep.
Yeah, like you're feeling pretty good about yourself at that point. And then Mike says Hunt needs Chubb more than Chubb needs him, and that is probably the most accurate thing we've said here.
If Hunt and Chubb are playing and Chubb goes down, Hunt goes from RB 18 to RB 12. If Chubb and Hunt are playing, he goes from RB 8 to RB 3. When Hunt goes down.
Exactly, and he also think I'm just talking about the Titans defense, but no, I honestly I think Baker's going to smash this year. Top 10 QB, that's definitely not consensus. I think he's going off the boards as like,
18,
yeah,
16.
18, something like that. So definitely, whether it's redraft or dynasty, I think he's a smash in drafts. But that's going to bring me to my last one and my spicy one. Go ahead and get yourself ready. Get those headphones lubed, and here we go. Corey Davis is a wide receiver 2 in 2021. Oh, the headphones are off. I think he broke his computer, honestly. Oh, man. Oh, you're muted.
You must be loving my Zach Wilson take.
I'm loving the Zach Wilson take. I'm right. That's why I'm right there with you. I actually think I think Wilson's getting a lot of hate, but they set him up so well. They added to the offensive line last year. They added to the offensive line this year. They added to the wide receivers. And like it's not just he's not walking in like a lot of these guys walk in like a Burrow last year. Like where he had a couple wide receivers, but he had no offensive line. Like he's not walking in like that. He's walking into like a pretty decent situation. But Corey Davis is one of those pieces, and he's going to be a wide receiver 2 in 2021. Thank you.
At least you gave us a hot take, and you didn't leave here with freaking like lukewarm.
No, I wasn't doing that.
That's at least hot. Yeah, I don't like it at all, but I didn't rank past 24, 25, 26. So like I didn't even go to 30, 36, 40. I was just doing it by redraft rankings as a 30-minute challenge thing.
Right.
I probably, and I'm just spitting here, I probably would have had him at like 35, 36. So, and it's a massive tier of wide receivers. Now, for him to yeah, Mike, of course we had to talk Corey Davis tonight.
It's the monocle. If we don't talk about Corey Davis, like it's literally like on the show sheet every week. Talk about Corey Davis and then talk about some stats.
Zach Wilson has to smash because, I mean, you expect him to be the one in that offense over Elijah?
Yeah. Trust me, I love Elijah Moore. I'm not saying that like Elijah's going to be garbage or he's not going to break out. I do think he will do that. I just think that, like you said, the Jets defense is not that good. They're going to have to throw, and Corey Davis is going to be there. Elijah's going to be there, and you might even get some Mims thrown in there too.
I was like, what happened to Mims, wide receiver 1? It sounds spicy in my head when I say Corey Davis over Elijah Moore until you say it out loud. It's okay to say these things. Think about them, reflect on them. Don't just be eaten by your emotions. Yep. I love Elijah Moore, but actually, when I say it, it's not that crazy for me to see Corey Davis be the one in that offense this year. And I expect Zach Wilson to be good. Top 24 is tough.
Well, all right. So he was the wide receiver 26 in points per game last year already. So he also missed a couple games. He was injured a couple games, and he had 2 games of 0 points.
He doesn't have Julio Jones. I mean, he doesn't have AJ Brown or Derrick Henry either, though.
No, I get that.
I don't even know if that helps or hurts, but I can't.
Well, I think it's a little bit of both. Like the efficiency is probably going to go down a little bit because obviously he's moving to a rookie QB and new offense, and new everything. But and the quality, but I think the quantity is going to go up. I feel like it was a very low volume offense in the Titans. Obviously, they were banking or they were leaning on Derrick Henry, and then obviously AJ Brown was still there. Even if Elijah Moore does completely show up and just blow up, that doesn't mean that Corey Davis can't stand out as a wide receiver too. I'm not saying he's going to be a top 12 wide receiver or anything like that. If it was a different situation, if he was still on the Titans right now instead of Julio Jones, I might actually make that claim. But I can't do it when when you have a rookie QB, new situation, and new team and all that kind of stuff. So I'm saying wide receiver 24 or better. And I don't think it's that hot, but I know people probably. I mean, especially with the ADP, he's going as like the wide receiver 51 or something like that.
He ain't going that low. He's going before DVP, but I can see the change being good for him, being in a new spot that wanted him to come in. Young, very young team. he could become a fucking leader there. I'm seeing this narrative. It's weaving together in my head.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I don't know if I've ever actually convinced Duchesne's of anything before. So like I feel like I'm actually
please come on. We agree quite a bit. It's just the takes that you're awfully wrong about. I can't let sit there.
Teddy
This is what happens when you're
QB1
not
right
married to numbers, though, where you don't have numbers that tell you the answers, and then you have to be married. It's okay. Just what feels right, dude.
Only Duchesne's can come onto the Monocle and then completely shit all over numbers. But that was it. That was the hot takes. We actually had some good ones last year. Some of the best ones from last year were Calvin Ridley was going to be a top 12 wide receiver, and actually had that from multiple people. I feel like they got a little lucky because obviously Julio got hurt. We don't know exactly what would have happened had he not. But those were definitely the best ones from last year. Mine from last year, not the greatest. And actually, that's not true. I had Kyler Murray as the QB1. He finished as the QB1, at least through week 16. People talk about week 17. Get the fuck out of here with that shit. But the other one was DJ Moore will be the wide receiver 1, and I don't think it was close, but I don't think he quite finishes the wide receiver 1. So I guess I was 50-50. That's not the worst.
Yeah, it was kind of funny how exactly he finished from the year before, like yards and touchdowns. Like it was like the exact same.
It was so close, yeah.
But yeah, thank you for having me on. I talked a lot of shit. We both talked a lot of shit, but a lot of them were friends. But these are hot takes. We're just having fun with it, I think. So at the end of the day, don't be too butthurt. I mean, look at how hard we ripped each other's takes apart. It's all for fun. So yeah, I just want to thank you for having me on here. It's always fun to talk hot takes, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Dave Toronto, whoever that guy is, had fun, and I had fun too, and I appreciate it. And I had to have you on. As soon as I was like, you know what, I did it last year. I need to do it again. I haven't had a guest on in weeks. I mean, months maybe. I really don't even remember the last time I had a guest on. And I was just like, I need to have some guests on. I need to do some like fun shows because it's been all about the numbers. And I know my listeners appreciate that, but at the same time, like you probably want to have a little bit of fun every once in a while. And the hot takes, as long as they're somewhat realistic, like I think it's fun to like discuss it and trying to figure out. And like you said, like the Corey Davis as a wide receiver too was way spicy, right? Like when you first thought about it, and then you thought about it for 20 more seconds, 2 more minutes, whatever, and you're like, maybe it's not that spicy. You start actually like putting like numbers to people and faces and things like that. So appreciate you coming on. Always welcome on the hot takes pod or anything like that. Duchesne's, where can we find you? What are you up to?
I'm at Duchesne's _. I'm sure you know me because I'm a big shot like that. But if you like having fun like that, you can catch me at Terrestrial Takes, the podcast, wherever you stream those. That's where we talk fantasy and football and more of those items. But I've also just started a new pod called Getting After It, where we talk about UFC, but it's more of a casual, just chill session where we talk UFC, we talk basketball, and then a lot of food talk. So Terrestrial Takes, Getting After It, at Duchesne's _.
Yeah, and we're trying to convince Duchesne's to put his rankings, make them public here pretty soon. I'm really hoping that that's going to happen. And obviously that'll be on the link tree if it ever does happen. So just check it out and make sure you follow Duchesne's at Duchesne's _. But we're going to go ahead and get out of here. Hope you guys enjoyed it because obviously we did. But we will catch you next time.